Hi, everybody. This is Joanne Manaster, Science Goddess with Read Science, and my co-host Jeff Shaumeyer is joining me. I'm sitting in Illinois, and Jeff is near Washington, D.C., and our guest today is Liz Heinecke, who is in Minnesota. I love the internet. And Liz is a returning guest. She has been on before because Liz has written so many books, and it's amazing. And so Liz is the author of many, many books, including this one. Today we will look at primarily biology for kids. Happy to have this book as a biologist. And then we'll bring Jeff, our physicist, along to yeah.
I get to play Dr. Watson today. It's like, I'm sorry, can you explain that biology to me?
I think this book is great
Yes.
for this. So Liz, I don't know where we cut off at. If you
I
had
lost a little, sorry.
Yeah, no, well, and I was just saying, many biologists I know are great artists, or they're good at taking pictures, and how that's all part of being a biologist, right?
Yeah, it's all
I mean,
observation skills, right? And
all my research needed some photos, so with the electron microscope, so you can't just say, yeah, I saw it.
yeah,
You have to prove what you saw. So I'm many hours in the darkroom developing photos. That's how long ago I was working
oh yeah,
in grad
Science-
school,
That's so cool. Science is all about looking at the evidence, right? And you have to record what you learn. So I think,
Well-
and I often say either draw it or photograph it. Because I have three
Right.
kids, and one of them hates drawing,
Yes.
but loves science and will happily take pictures of things. So I was going to tell you one thing about the illustrator, the process of doing the illustrations for these books. That's so fun is that I sent her a folder of images of the scientists and then images of the equipment they used, whatever they were studying, things related to their work, and then she takes that and makes these beautiful portraits. And she often does research on her own. For like some of the imagery that you mentioned that's so beautifully woven into the portraits. So I think that lots of kids are artists and some of them aren't, and that's fine. But some kids can record things with words. It's just like we were talking about reading a science textbook. Some kids will record things with photos, some with drawings. So I think it's good to just celebrate, kids embracing their strengths.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I agree. I sort of like this. I wouldn't have thought of this, but I could see this being fun, like making a neuron out of pipe cleaners. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, it's interesting. I had seen this project before, but I had never seen it with. I wanted to put a bead on it so you can see how the electrical signal travels.
Yeah.
And then
Very
it's cool if kids make a bunch of these. This is in the book. You can have them. I can't hold this up, but you can have the signal travel. This one can pick up the chemical signal, turns it to an electrical signal. It travels, so they can set up a whole network of neurons. But once again, it can be hard to think about how one end of a neuron is next to other neurons, and they can pick up chemical signals and turn into electrical signals. It's hard to visualize that sometimes. So making these little pipe cleaner neurons and then setting them up next to each other and watching how the signal travels is really cool way for kids to understand how nerve cells work. I mean, I think it's a cool project, and they also make like a lovely little bouquet.
Oh, how nice.
Yes. Well, and they wiggle in a fun way, and you can hit your brother with it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm sure that happens. So always curious, you have real kids doing experiments in the book. You just find them in the neighborhood or friends and family?
Well, for my first group of books before the Kitchen Pantry Scientist series, it was neighbor kids, it was my friends, my kids' friends, it was some of the kids, my photographer Amber Procaccini, some of the kids she knows from her photo shoots. And sometimes we would have 50 kids in one book, which was a lot of fun. But then the pandemic hit right when I was working on Chemistry for Kids, my first book in this series. So that book and Biology for Kids and physics for kids, which we just finished photographing. We did all of them
Yes.
out on our screen and porch. Or maybe, no, chemistry for kids was pre-pandemic. But we did them with smaller group of kids. And it was all kids who are neighbor kids and friends.
Okay.
And some kids that Amber, my photographer, knows. But we did all of them on the screened in porch. The kids were masked, and then when we were taking pictures, they'd take off their masks. Luckily, by this year, when we were finishing up the physics photo shoot, we were all vaccinated. And we were outside on the screened in porch, so we could not be so careful. But it's all kids we know, and so
what a challenge. What a challenge. And you have diversity in the kids too.
Oh, yeah.
Which is great.
That's very important. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we live in Minnesota, there are so many blonde-haired, blue-eyed kids that I'm always, diversity is really, really important because I want kids to look at the books and be able to see themselves in them. So I wish I could get even more diversity. I have to just keep working hard to do that. So.
Yeah. That's and I'm happy to hear. So physics for kids is the next one.
Yep, we just finished photographing it. It's all written.
All right.
Potato guns. Sounds dangerous, so maybe not.
Yeah,
Non-Newtonian fluids, I would hope.
Well, that's been in lots of my other books. I tried to do some new ones. The other thing is I really work hard to find, like I said, a diverse group of scientists and interesting scientists who do, and I try to include, some important historical scientists who a lot of people know about, Sir Isaac Newton or Galileo.
Where things come from. Yeah.
But I also have to find scientists that I can do something related to their work.
Yeah.
Which can be tricky in itself. So, sorry, no non-Newtonian fluids in that one, but there's been several of my other books.
Right.
Okay.
But things, I suppose, like catapult or gravity and.
Yes. So pendulums, but but also I did some cool things with slit experiments with light.
Sure.
I spent weeks on my kitchen table with sunbeams coming through trying to figure out the best, easiest way to do those. Because you can't, a lot of those old experiments, they would darken a whole room and put mirrors outside as to concentrate the light and have a pinhole coming through. And, I couldn't do that kind of setup. I have to figure out how to do this with 2 cereal boxes and an index card.
Yeah.
So I do spend a lot of time on experiment development, which is kind of fun.
It's nice. That's great.
There are some fun projects. I think that book is a lot of fun, actually. So you'll see soon.
I look forward to that. Yes, and I'll try not to be harsh.
Well, let me
doubt.
just tell you this. My dad is a physicist.
All right.
He was my fact checker, proofreader. So he's very good with language too. So
it helps me a lot to understand, to approach this book and your books, not as real biology experiments for kids.
Right.
I think once I see it as we've been talking about it, as playtime, as laying some foundation, as having fun and getting familiar with some things, it's exceedingly valuable, even if it's not biology experiments exactly.
Yeah.
For kids.
I do have some experiments. So this
and right there, I'm thinking, should we keep
kind of
suspense for Louis Pasteur longer? Or do I remember correctly? This is Louis Pasteur here, his lab, I think. Yeah.
Yes. So I wanted to reproduce his swan neck flask experiment because it's really an important experiment in biology.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was trying to prove, life doesn't just spontaneously arise. So I figured out that, so I didn't have any apple juice this morning. I just used water and yellow food color. You need some kind of pasteurized liquid that has sugar in it, nutrients for bacteria. But basically you fill 2 jars, you clean them in the dishwasher to kind of sterilize them. You take them out, you fill them with pasteurized clear apple juice. And then you have the kids, it's hard to see, but I basically have the ring lid on the jar, but I have saran wrap over it.
Right.
I see.
You poke a hole with
Yes.
a toothpick and they put a straw in it and tape around where the straw is. And then they have one straight neck straw so that
Yep.
microbes from the air can fall into the apple juice, right?
Yes.
And then they have one that's representing Pasteur's swan neck flask that's bent so that microbes can't, unless a very powerful gust of wind,
Yes.
maybe, microbes can't get into the jar. And it's pretty cool. After several days, you will have a pretty nice, usually like clump of fungus or bacteria, probably a fungal mat growing in the jar. But so there are some for kids who want science experiments. They grow microbes on petri dishes. I'm trying to think. I haven't done this. Oh, it was really fun I write about Mendel in the book, and
Yes.
we grew pea plants, and I'd always read about this, but I had never taken apart a pea blossom before and explored how he did his cross-pollination experiment. So I talk about how to do that. And
Yes.
we didn't actually cross-pollinate any peas, but I have kids take it apart. I have them paint the pollen from one plant to another, from one flower to another. So that's pretty cool, because you always read about these pea experiments, but I think it's not always.
Yeah, I've never done it. Yeah, not even in any of my introductory biology labs.
I'm remembering the growing penicillin with a plastic bag and breadcrumbs.
Yeah, and I have that in the
But
book.
that's a real experiment.
Yes, you do.
Yep.
Yes.
The experiment lies not in the complexity of the equipment. It's the ideas that you're exposing.
In my first book, I have, DNA extraction.
There.
Yeah, there. Oh, yeah. It's really fun to grow microbes on little petri plates and see what grows. Kids love that. In my first book, I had DNA extraction, but I didn't put that in this book because that's a cool experiment. But one thing that I've learned by doing this and doing it with kids is that they extract the DNA and they're like, now what?
Yeah.
And I've tried to figure out ways to illustrate electrophoresis, like with strong magnets and, the iron filings you can get out of total cereal. I've tried a lot of things, but I haven't found a lot of good ways for kids to explore molecular biology, because so much of it involves electricity and dangerous chemicals. You can't say, oh, go get some ethidium bromide and we'll
we can't do that.
But
at least you can do chromatography.
Oh yeah, chromatography, absolutely, and that's in a lot of my books. Patricia Bath. So she was a physician who invented cataract surgery.
Not you, Jeff.
So this is another more like illustrative project. But kids can take toilet paper rolls and rubber bands and wax paper, put wax paper over the top, look through, and it's very hard to see. Things are blurry. So they can. This is about understanding the importance of scientific discovery. So then kids can take off the wax paper and take some saran wrap, cut out little squares. So this is representing how in cataract surgery they cut out the cloudy lenses using lasers and then replace them with plastic lenses, basically. So so kids can take the wax paper off, put plastic wrap on, and now they can see.
Yeah.
And that's, it's a very simple experiment, but I think it gives kids, for one thing, empathy for people with vision problems. I mean, they can see how hard it is for people with cataracts to see the world. And then they can see that Patricia Bath, by inventing this technique, restored the visions of millions and millions of people around the world. And I think things like that are really important for it. When you're a kid, it's hard to see sometimes outside of your own sphere. And I think that it's really cool for them to learn about people who made discoveries that helped so many people.
But you also have, you don't just have to imagine this, do you? You have reactions from the kids who you're photographing doing this. How do they react? What do they do? What do they let you know?
Oh, they like most of the experiments. Sometimes it's boring, if they're like just sitting here taping a straw to a jar. So, but you give them some non-Newtonian fluid, they go crazy. a lot of kids like making stuff. They had fun making these pipe cleaner neurons.
Yeah.
Okay, one experiment that never, this is a classic science experiment that never goes wrong. But I talk about Ernest Everett Just, a famous cell biologist in the book. And he studied cells. So I can't say, go to your nearest tide pool and find some marine creatures and study the eggs they lay.
Right.
But I can say that he studied biological processes in eggs, in cells.
Yeah.
And so in my book, I have kids can dissolve eggshells using vinegar. It dissolves the calcium carbonate crystals. These I just started last night, so I can't quite get all the shell off. But they can take these, they're super fun to play with, right? Oh,
Yeah.
Squishy eggs that just have this cell membrane. They can rinse them with water. They can put them in corn syrup overnight to do an osmosis experiment. Sorry, there's a truck going by.
That's all right.
So they can see how water moves in and out of cells. Then they can take it, after it shrivels up in the corn syrup, they can take it and put it in water again. And I talk about the science behind it, the concentrated sugar, the water moves to the concentrated solution. Then they can put it back in water and see how the water moves back into the egg, into the model of the cell. So
I was amazed by that, because locked away in the physics lab, I didn't know you could dissolve the shell and not have the egg just sort of float away or something. I mean, that's just, I was amazed.
The egg and vinegar experiment, I remember from, it's one of my earliest memories in preschool. They did this, and I was just fascinated.
Yeah.
So I do try to include projects like this. Another fun one, have you guys ever done the thing where you, and this is in the book, I talk about Darwin. He was interested in the Galapagos, obviously, and how birds could have gotten over there. So he tested whether eggs could float in seawater.
Yes.
Ah.
Yes.
So it's fun. You can take a raw egg, put it in a glass of water, and add salt to it until the salinity is high enough that the egg will float.
Nice.
So that's a cool project related to Charles Darwin. But also, I discovered when I was writing my book Radiant that Marie Curie homeschooled some kids for a while, and that was one of the projects she did with them. And I just thought, oh, that's so cool. I just put that in my other book.
There's lineage, provenance to that experiment.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of the vinegar, I don't think you had this. One of my favorite is the chicken bone one, where you get it in vinegar and then it's like this, or you could bake the heck out of a chicken bone and it crumbles because the heat destroys the collagen, but the vinegar destroys the calcium carbonate. Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's a good one.
It's
Maybe I'll
excellent.
Future books. I haven't done that one.
Yeah, I love that one. I don't know why, but of course, then when I'm teaching histology and I say, if you ever did that experiment, that's because this is gone, but this is still there, So.
Oh, that's a good one. I get lots of ideas from my scientist friends.
Well, and that does underscore the idea that these simple activities can be very memorable things, because here we all are remembering these simple activities we've done that illustrate that stuff.
Absolutely.
So I wonder, so you said you got the physics book coming up. Do you just have idea after idea, like biology for kids too, or,
I just signed a contract for another book in this series. So I do have 2 more books that I have ideas for. So I'll be working on those over the next year. But I'm taking July off. I need a break from writing. It's a ton of fun, but after I'm done with writing one of these books, I'm like, okay, I'm done with doing thinking about chemistry for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's fun. All the books obviously play into each other. And one thing that's fun about the books, because I do them in chronological order, is I can often refer back, and I do this a lot in the physics book, refer back to classic experiments. So not only does that sort of redefine things for kids, but then if they are interested in that thing, they can go back and say, oh, this is a project related to what spurred ever this thing I'm interested in. So, whether I'm talking about how in the physics book, how scientists study the signatures from the stars to see what's happening in the universe, I can refer back to other, the woman who discovered what the sun is made of in an earlier project. So it's cool in all these books to be able to, for kids also to see what scientists were inspired by other scientists that came before them.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, I did notice that this was in a chronological order, because, so then for a little while there, you just have white male scientists.
And I think that's an important pattern for kids to know. I mean, there are occasionally a few, like maybe one or two women at the beginning of the books, but not many. And then by the end, I try to have it be mostly women.
Yes, and it's like, it's sort of hard to avoid, but for you to rectify that and to show the pattern, I think that's really important. So,
and
actually,
I don't want to dismiss, obviously male scientists. I actually try to do, they're usually like maybe one or two more women than men, just because I think there are more women that need to be recognized. But I absolutely have nothing against male scientists. I try to keep it pretty equal because I want to inspire boys too, not just girls.
Right. And we have a white male sitting here, so we can't.
Yes, and I don't think any of it seemed that way. And that's I think part of my earlier observation about the value of the illustrations for showing that progression of diversity without having to spend pages and paragraphs talking about it. It seems much more natural, and none of it seemed negative or exclusionary. It seemed much more inclusionary, and that's good. And I think people, the current climate, people are starting to learn to accept or to appreciate that it takes a little more effort. But yes, these stories are there to find, and they're worth hearing about because it doesn't detract from anyone. It just adds to the body of all the things that we understand.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, most of the names in science that people recognize, maybe with the exception of Marie Curie, are white men. So I think I don't, unless often if their work is, really important in building the foundation of the story of physics, then I talk about their work. But I really think it's more important for kids to see role models who look like them. So
and I don't know about there are two things I'm thinking about disciplines. One is as I was becoming a physicist educationally and things, I think maybe I was surprised by how ever present the history of physics is in just doing everyday work. It's like we feel all these people behind us. We know everything they've done. There are these connections. Most of our units are named for people who did experiments before us and things like that. And I think that happens. And also, physics has been going through this sort of reckoning of, every time something like atomic bomb research comes up, we say, well, in the discovery of fission, for instance, look at this overlooked woman who actually provided all of the data for this person who then published the paper and became
Lisa
famous.
Meitner is in my book.
Yes.
Yay.
That's
I
right.
love her, actually.
Well, those things are getting uncovered. We have more understanding when we see that. It's a process, I guess. It's exciting that we're doing it now, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of a re-education, right?
Yeah.
For so much has been left out of science.
And an enhancement. I can understand people who at first feel like this is somehow denigrating the contribution of the old white men. And it does nothing about that. It just enhances the context and finds more people with interesting stories, and it broadens what it is that makes science go, and the fact that anybody could become a scientist or something else. But
and it's all about giving people opportunity. I mean, that's I think what I try to highlight in the book more than anything. That for a long time, the only people that could do science were the super wealthy people.
Yes.
And that's why science is the way it is. And now, hopefully, we're moving into a new era where everyone has the opportunity to do science. So.
Right, and bring their new perspective, and that leads to new discoveries. So.
And not be discriminated against for who they are. So.
Yeah, so Jeff, I don't know if you had time to read Liz's a nonfiction historical book, Radiant.
I haven't yet, but it's in my reading list.
So this is a bit of a diversion from the kids' science. So you want to tell everybody about this book? I read it. I liked it. It was so cool to see this friendship between a scientist and a dancer. And wow, life was tough back then. That's one thing I got out of this book. I went, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it's a book for adults about the friendship of the famous scientist Marie Curie, who was the first person to measure radioactivity. She discovered 2 radioactive elements, and then the Curie is named after Marie and her husband Pierre. He was also a brilliant scientist. They were a real team. But Marie became friends with this American dancer in Paris, who was the most famous dancer in Paris, a woman named Loie Fuller, who had basically invented modern stage lighting, and also gotten away from having dancing she turned dancing to art rather than just like women flaunting their bodies for men. She turned science to art. So she was very interested in any new science and technology. She was kind of like a Thomas Edison. She didn't have a lot of education, but she was very bright and picked up everything. So she wrote a letter to Marie Curie asking for she heard about this element called radium that Marie had discovered. She said, can I have some radium to light my dancing costume? And Marie said, no. I'm like working my butt off to extract like this much radium so I can, purify it, and characterize it. But they became friends, and were friends for the rest of their lives. Basically, they didn't meet up, every week. They weren't best friends, but she was friends with Marie and Pierre. She visited their lab numerous times. Marie they'd meet up. Loie introduced Marie and Pierre to the sculptor Auguste Rodin. Loie was very good friends with him. They met up at his studio. Marie did after Pierre died. But it's really about women struggling to make their work known in a world that was completely controlled by men, and how a lot of women supported each other. But it's all set, I love art and literature. It's all set in this very rich historical context.
Yeah.
So,
But a lot of science loves Marie Curie and owns her because she's still the unique person who's won a Nobel Prize in 2 science disciplines.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, well, thanks for summarizing the book.
Yeah.
I really liked it. Like I said, boy, things were hard back then, and it was a lot of these struggles of women, like you said, trying to get their work known. Yeah. So I hope people, if you're looking for a good historical look at this friendship, this is, the only place you can get it.
Yeah, it's creative nonfiction. So
creative nonfiction. Yeah, so you had to take some liberties, right?
All of it, everything in the book actually happened. The only liberties I took were I invented some of the dialogue because I'm a fiction reader primarily, and I wanted it to read like a novel. In part also to get hopefully some younger readers to read it. I wanted it. I love historical nonfiction that reads like fiction. So
right.
But everything that happened in the book, it's all based on fact. I spent a year researching it, and every scene I wrote it like a play. Almost every scene was an event that happened. All the people I knew, every name I mentioned, it's all a fact. So
yeah, so I knew Loie Fuller's name, and I remember that famous image of her.
Yeah.
With the
poster, on the French poster.
Yep. And but that was it. So it was nice to learn more about her. And I imagine you have some dancers who've picked up this book.
Yeah, actually, a lot of dancers have liked it.